Well, hey everybody, Lucien here, and tonight I'm diving into something a little bit heavier. This one's called Wrong. It's one of those stories that I debated publishing for years, not because it's extreme or shocking, but because it questions everything we built our world on. So, belief, truth, and what happens when we break and die. If you followed along with the other notebook summaries, you'll know the drill. I drop the full story in and we see what the AI comes back with.
This time it really distilled wrong down to its bones. It felt almost like scripture being untangled by logic. So here's wrong in its purest summarized form, straight from NotebookLM.
Have you ever stopped and wondered, what if every single religion got it wrong? Well, that's exactly the idea Lucien Maier tackles in his story, Wrong. It's this incredible reimagining of the afterlife that's not just about shocking you, but about asking some really big questions about what we believe, how we connect, and what we actually leave behind. Let's dive in. And right out of the gate, the author hits you with this. This line is from the prelude, and talk about setting a tone, right? It tells you immediately that this story isn't going to pull any punches when it comes to challenging our deepest ideas about faith and what happens next. All right, so the story kicks off, and wow, we are dropped straight into the afterlife. But forget pearly gates and fluffy clouds. Think more like a cosmic, soul-crushing processing center. And it's here that a spirit guide starts revealing the unfiltered and honestly pretty brutal truth about humanity's fate. Almost immediately, this guide just pulls the rug out from under you. Heaven? Hell? The guide basically says, yeah, cute stories, but that's not how any of this actually works. In this universe, every religion is just a man-made tale. It has absolutely no bearing on the real mechanics of the cosmos. This really lays it all out, doesn't it? On one side, you've got everything humanity has ever believed. And on the other, the cold, hard, systematic truth. Divine judgment? Nah, that's just energy disposal. And get this, chosen people? The guide's like, nope, you guys are a failed experiment. Ouch. And the guide does not mince words. None at all. Every single faith, doesn't matter if it's ancient sun worship or a modern global religion, is just labeled a cult. They're all seen as just the same story, retold over and over again to keep people in line. It's a brutal take. Okay, so if all of that wasn't bleak enough for you, check out this number. This tiny, tiny percentage, that's the number of human souls that actually make it, that actually ascend to a higher plane. So what happens to everybody else? Well, yeah, it's not pretty. For basically everyone who has ever lived, there's no judgment, no final reward. It's a processing line. You go through this thing called the passage of spirits. They strip out any good energy you have, and then, poof, you're just disposed of. It's incredibly grim. But just when you think it's all doom and gloom, something impossible happens. A flash of light rips through the darkness. An ascension. Something the guides themselves say almost never happens anymore. So who's the guy who cracked the code? Meet Joe. He's this fella from the 19th century who basically lived off the grid before that was even a thing. He wasn't big on people, but he was in total, complete harmony with nature. Like, he could literally talk to it. And this line from his journal, found way after he died, really says it all. It was his secret sauce, you know? While the rest of us were busy making up stories about the universe, Joe was just listening to the real language of the system, spoken by the birds, the trees, everything. Okay, now here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. Joe did it. He won the cosmic lottery. He's free. But his first question after ascending, looking down at all those souls being processed, he just asks, so when can I go back? You can imagine the reaction, right? Some higher being shows up and is basically like, are you crazy? Why would you do that? It tells him straight up, humanity is a lost cause. The experiment failed. It is a sinking ship, and jumping back on is just pointless. But Joe, he's not having it. And his answer is just perfect. So powerful. He knows he can't save the ship. He's not trying to. He just wants to go back to teach a few people how to swim. And believe it or not, they let him. So boom, Joe is reborn. It's 1974, his name is now Adrian, and his mission, his entire life's passion this time around, is to become a storyteller. But his new life, well, it looks like a total failure.
That amazing connection to nature? It's gone. Instead, he can write. He writes constantly, but nobody ever reads his stories. He dies in a hospital bed, thinking he completely, utterly blew his one shot to make a difference.
And here comes the twist you've been waiting for. The second he dies, he ascends again. He's shocked, and waiting for him is his old dog spirit Max, who gives him this super cryptic message, basically saying, "Hold on, Joe, it ain't over yet." So we jump ahead 4 years, and Adrian's daughter, Nellie, finally gets into his old files. And what does she find? An absolute treasure trove of stories he wrote that no one has ever seen. And this is where it all clicks into place. It all started with one short story he wrote called The Bark. Nellie reads it, and suddenly she gets it. She can hear the world around her, just like Joe could. So she shares the story with her friends, and that's when the magic really starts. Because one by one, after they die, this small group of people who read that one story, they all ascend. Every single one of them. Something that's supposed to be impossible. So you see, Adrian's mission was never about saving the world. It was about writing something so true it could teach the right people how to listen again. And that's when he gets the final word from that higher power. It all comes full circle. What he thought was a total failure was actually an incredible, off-the-charts success. He wanted to teach one person to swim, and his words ended up teaching a whole group of them. So in the end, Wrong leaves you with this really powerful thought, What if we forgotten how to listen to? And the big takeaway here? Maybe leaving a legacy isn't about some huge world-changing act. Maybe it's just about telling one true story that helps someone else see the world in a whole new way.